so much talk and expectation around?
Devon, yeah, it's. I enjoyed it. He's sitting in the stands watching and studying the goaltenders and the shooters, and you could see how dialed in he was, and he is. He's that's one of his attributes. I mentioned it before. He's very engaged, developing, taking initiative to develop himself. And I'm excited to get him on the ice after watching him in prospect camp in the summertime, and now that he's here.
Do you have any indication how long this whole process is going to take?
Thank you.
Do you have any indication how long the process of getting the visa stuff might take?
We're hopeful that sooner than later, and it could be as soon as today. It could be tomorrow. So it's a day-to-day dealing.
So in theory, once he gets a couple practices, he becomes a candidate to be used as soon as he practices, right?
He does. He does. In actuality, that's the case, not theory. And what you would look at is, when is that appropriate? He has all new gear. The process of that is gear has to be, certified by the league and measured by the league and, approved. And that's come in piece by piece, so he doesn't have all his gear yet. And he hasn't faced NHL shooters yet. So getting used to that gear, getting gear broken in, and facing enough shooters and timing and rhythm, that is something that we will monitor, and if there's and see where it leads.
You concerned at all putting the goalie in his situation into an NHL game for the first time, just based on the way that the chances against you guys have given up for especially the last couple of weeks here?
In light of the chances against, no, Lance, but with the concern of what I said, yes, until he would have, based on watching him, and is there enough time for him to get acclimated to the position that I would feel comfortable putting him in there. That would be where the decision would be made. So wouldn't be discouraged otherwise.
How do you expect him to benefit from being around Craig Anderson?
Craig and him have spoken prior, a year ago when they met, and it was in Boston, and they sat and talked, and Devon, loved that. And I think that Craig gives back to everybody. He loves the position, the hindsight he has, career hindsight now, and he likes to share it. So I think that'll be a real plus that there's some overlap.
Seeing a guy like him kind of hop into the stands to watch the closing 3-on-3 at the end of the game to study everybody, to watch everything. I can't say that I've seen that before, for a young guy doing that, to study his team and goaltending styles, but what does it say about him to see that day one first practice?
Yeah, I mean, it's to take the initiative to do that, walk up in the stands by yourself while you're part of the team. I think it's natural for a guy to go sit up there, but he was studying it. And, the best players that I've been around, elite NHL All-Stars, and their history is when they were kids, they sat at a game and studied it like that. They just put themselves in that situation, and that's why they've become great players. They've learned through and taught themselves to learn. The best guys in the game, in any business, are self-learners. They figure out how to develop themselves, and they're very engaged in that process. The other end of the spectrum is there's somebody that's athletically gifted and not quite as vested, or doesn't have quite the passion. But those that study have a deep passion. This is the only thing in my life I want to make sure I get done, I accomplish. And Devon definitely approaches his position very seriously, and he's accomplished what he's accomplished because he's worked with the coaches he's had very well. He wants to learn more, but he's studied it himself.
What do you think about the expectations that are on him just outside, and how he's equipped to handle that? And at that position, it's a unique challenge.
Well, my experience with the goalies that have had, that had very good NHL careers, and I can think of multiple in my mind, and then multiple that I've had that have been prolific, players, talent, and come into sign big $1 million contracts and couldn't stick in the NHL. And when I look at 10 of those guys, the ones that have made it and the ones that didn't, and it wasn't there was no discrepancy in talent. It was what I just said, learning. When the goal goes in, it's not a mystery to them. They actually know, or they watch it on film quick and they say, I should have read that. I should have known that. I can fix that. The guys that don't know what just happened to them feel overwhelmed. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know how to fix it. I don't even know how to evaluate it. But they're talented. Those are the athletes that will struggle and, unfortunately not make it as a result of just that. They get games and time and, maybe contracts, but if they can't, evaluate and correct, it eventually catches up to them and it hurts them, their confidence significantly.
How much is developed in camp as far as, he told us, he goes, I loved it. He goes, everything about it. He goes, after a week I didn't even want to leave. How much did that camp help him now, do you think, as he integrates into the team?
Yeah, absolutely helped him building relationships around here. And I think it helped him just in the hockey, a new experience, any new experience. And first time you put an NHL jersey on is significant. So it moved him along the path, absolutely. It's hard to tell how much it helped him, but you do know, with everything I've said, the base of the person, you do know he soaked up about as much experience as you could gain from something like that. So that's the value of having those camps, is the players of his nature that come in can, it's a shorter adaptation now based on that. He knows our medical team, our equipment team, players in our locker room, and obviously coaching staff, and that moves it, among many other things, and that can move things forward faster from now. Yes, John.
Not to say that you haven't had a hand in developing UPL and even input on Anderson and your other goalies, but this is the first opportunity you have for us to see you develop a rookie goalie, a prospect who's coming up. What is your approach to that? And is there an eye test? Is there a field test in how you gauge that development? What is it how do you make that approach in determining what each step of the process is? Yeah,
there's a lot of feel to it. I mean, you're in the game. I've obviously been in the game for decades, and there is a feel. Lance asked the question, appropriate question, whether you're worried about if your defensive gives up too many chances. You're factoring in everything. So it's a feel. It's a feel. As a coach, I've been in many situations like this over the years, whether it's with individual players or with an overall team. And lots of it, and the psychology of it is always the first thing. It's always the first thing, and that then manifests in physical. Oh, he doesn't react quick enough, or he doesn't do this, or the team's not doing that. So, but yes, so you're taking in. You've got to take everything. Everything is within context of the day. That's the reality, and sometimes the reality is just perception. But that, as a coach, you're dealing with that. What's your perception of reality? If I'm working with you or somebody else, is their perception high stress? Is it things are coming at them too fast? And so there's lots of factors and components. That's why I say, in fairness to Devon, he has to go through a process. How fast the process is going to be, just from even getting his first start, there's things that have to fall in line, and we'll evaluate them as they go. But I'm very excited to be part of that process, knowing how accomplished this kid is already to this point. When you compare him to the peer group that is coming from that level,
the goalie gets so much attention just by the nature of the position. Sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's right. But how do you balance? At some point, he's going to be in there, and you need to find a way in the interim to get your team to be harder to play against. Like right now, you're last in the league in goals against since February 1st. It's not a small sample size. And it's not just on the goaltending. It's not just on the defenseman. It's everybody, forwards too. How do you get this team to play consistently like we saw against the Rangers and Edmonton? Some of these games you have been hard to play against. Then you've had a bunch of games in the last 3 weeks like yesterday.
Yeah, Mike, to answer that, there's a lot of psychology in that. There's a lot of dealing with the pressure that we've talked about, the fear of failure, and obviously certain game failure, and then being able to let that go and move forward. I think our team, as we've, I've said this over the years, if you overemphasize defense, you're going to lose offense, and when our team loses offense, we lose our identity. We lose our confidence is subject, and I think we've gone through some of that, and it's hurt us significantly. I also think that this is I'll use the term growing pains only from the standpoint we will come out of this better. I do feel we've been in our own heads, and are we? When you over concentrate on defense, you tend to tighten up and hesitate, and that's how it manifests. And then you're giving your opponent way better opportunity to make plays against you because you hesitated. And we've seen a lot of that. And so, a big part of our challenge is to get out of our own head and actually play our own game, put the other team on their heels. We haven't done that enough. When we've done that, because you've seen when we've actually had games that we've defended well, we haven't looked like ourselves offensively. But really the biggest thing is we haven't had that swagger of confidence and conviction that, you're going to try to beat us this way, but we are damn sure we're going to beat you this way. And when you're going at that clip and that pace, it's surprising how much you actually defend quicker and harder than when you actually start concentrating on defense. And you bring it to a conscious level. So right now for us, shifting to that, we're making defending, and unfortunately it's not in the habitual routine level yet. We're having to go to the conscious level, and you're giving up a second or two or an instant or two, and you have your stick completely on the puck, and then right when you're thinking about defense, you think about, what am I missing? And you move your stick, and it goes right through your stick. We've seen multiple plays like that. That's a psychology, because when we're not worried about what's behind us, or that the car might crash, when we're not worried about the car crash, we actually go right through the puck and play it. But the fact is, we needed to get a little better at defense. When you bring the attention to it, and then the stakes are where they are, you add way more pressure on the situation. So it's what we need to do, and we need to get better in that area, and our guys need to go through this, and there's certain things that sting, but they have to grow. Keep in mind, we are it's not an excuse, it's a reality. We are the youngest group. Just look at our defense. And unfortunately, there's a guy on the team last night that is an exceptional defenseman that I had for a couple of years. The things we had to go through with him, with what I just said, he had to go through until it became second nature, instinctive. And we have guys that defending is not that second nature instinctive yet. So it's pressure situations for them, and we got to push through it. But yes, it also gives us feedback of where they are in that regard as well, which is important for us to have.
Don, while these guys are obviously developing, how after a game like yesterday do you continue to require a standard but also not be crushing spirits as a coach?
Yeah, you have to. We talked today about, we can't lose our identity in the process of things we're putting in front of them. That cannot happen, and that has slipped, obviously, because you bring your attention somewhere else, and it's not like we have a bulk of guys that have such a long history in base. So when you divert attention somewhere, it wasn't that the other was a built base of long-time experience. And so for us today, we've got to do, I've said a lot on the bench, do what we do last night. Stop worrying about how the car may crash and do what we do. And don't let go of negative outcome, because that can pull you from the ability of focusing on what you can actually do. And you know, that's just, again, it's an unfortunate part of a process that is stress induced. I can tell you this: I've been with world championship teams, national teams, national championship teams, Division I championship teams, teams that have won regular seasons and not won playoffs, teams that have won regular seasons and won playoffs. Every single one of the championship teams I've been around goes through exactly what we're going through right now. You get in your own head, and this is part of our growth. You keep moving up to higher levels of expectation, which you have to learn how to deal with, which the higher level of expectation, which is on our players from everybody in this room and everybody that watches us and everybody in the room. You've moved up a tier of expectations. It gets in your head and you worry about failure. You worry and you overthink things. Look at the teams that are fighting for playoff spots. Look at Vegas last year, who didn't make playoffs. Teams go through this. And the teams that get to the other side of this are successful. I can tell you, no team that gets to the other side and is successful, it can't score. So we have a pretty good one going. We've lost it a little bit, but we've got a really good piece, because there's not many teams that go on to win that can't score goals. You can defend, like I said, but you're not winning championships without an ability to convert. We're struggling converting right now as we focus and turn to that. And the pressure's great. It's believe me, I'm losing sleep. It stinks, but I know through experience we need to go through this, and we cannot not fight through it. So yes, so when I talk to our guys in the morning, they have to embrace that you're going through misery that other teams are going through. This is natural in pro sports. How you deal with it is how quick you're going to get to the other side, and whether you're going to come out the other side with experience or just flat out luck. You know, so we want the experience of it.
To bring it back to Devon just a little bit, he's so eager and inquisitive, and he said he feels like in this stint for the rest of the season he could gain a year's worth of development. Is there any aspect of you that has to or tries to limit how much is on his plate or how much he's soaking up, just to make sure your priorities stick, or he is getting the psychological feel of it?
The only thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is hindsight. Hindsight's 20/20, we know. And he has no NHL hindsight right now. And so the more we can give him when you're home and the season ends in the summer, that's why I speak so much that Dylan Cousins is going to get better in the summertime. Peyton Krebs, J.J. Peterka, Jack Quinn, they're all going to get better in the summer by virtue of their age and the fact that this is a first experience for them. So they have hindsight that they can go home in the summer, and every time they go in a weight room, every time they think about the game, every time they go to bed at night, they now have hindsight of getting their body prepared for that next opportunity. And so for Devon to be here right now, he's gaining. We want to give him as much of that hindsight. That was very, very important for me and us as an organization to have Owen Power play 8 games at the end of last year. I wanted him to go into the summer with hindsight, playing against Austin Matthews, playing against this team, playing in this situation. Very, very important. So for Devon, it's the same approach.
Hey, Rick, just first step today, that was his first time on the ice, I guess.
And it was a good day. Yeah, very good day. So I don't know if Nicole updated you, but yeah. So where that leads, I'll find out more, Bill, but he went through practice and felt good.
Thank you, Don. Thank you.